Hi everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Anna Sumblad and I will host this webinar today. When the COVID-19 outbreak started, it suddenly changed a lot for the most of us. Among startups, many found themselves in a difficult situation, while someone benefited from the situation. And today we will try and find out how social entrepreneurs globally have adapted to a changed playing field. And to help us with this, we have our guests, Sofia Breitholtz, CEO of Reach for Change, and Mr. Ayatam Semine, founder of Beautiful Minds in Ethiopia. Welcome to both of you. And before we start, I just would like to remind you out there that you're able to ask questions during this webinar. You just have to use the link below this video. So once again, welcome Sofia and Ayatam to this webinar. And we'll start with you, Sofia. Could you please tell us a little bit about Reach for Change and also a short introduction of yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you, Anna, and thank you, everybody listening. Really great to be able to share our story today with you. Reach for Change is an organization that was founded 10 years ago, and our goal is to support very early stage social ventures and social entrepreneurs who have found innovations that support the lives of children and young people. And we search for these entrepreneurs across 3 different continents, and we bring them into our portfolio. We support them with seed funding, but also, most importantly, with non-financial capacity building support, so that we ensure that they are able to grow their proof of concept and then eventually to scale their innovation, to be able to really help children and youth out there. We've been doing this for the past 10 years and have supported over 1,000 entrepreneurs to date who have themselves impacted over 4.2 million children. So we're proud of these numbers. And myself, I have a background also from social enterprise, working particularly in Africa with clean water solutions. But I've also worked in kind of larger structures and with development cooperation in Southern Africa with the EU. And also I have a background from the business side of things. So it's a great mix to be doing what I'm doing today, which is leading Reach for Change as CEO, which I've been doing for the past 3 years.
Thank you so much, Ayatam. The same questions to you. Could you please tell us a little bit about Beautiful Minds and a short introduction of yourself as well? Do we have Ayatam with us?
Hello,
Hi.
Anna, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. So Beautiful Minds is a social enterprise. We are founded in a belief that hygiene is very important in Africa and in Ethiopia as well. So every year, 1.5 million children still dies due to diarrhea, and that figure still didn't change. So we intervened at that point where we try to figure out a business model which is sustainable yet can bring impact in terms of hygiene, health, and water sanitation in Ethiopia. And we work at schools, in government schools, where there is mass concentration of students and where hygiene, like hygiene-related diseases can contaminate faster and quicker. So we are now promoting hand hygiene through soap, hand washing, and also we produce hand washing soaps so that we can refund all the investment we do in the hygiene education and behavioral change.
And a little bit about yourself. How come
So
you...
I am my background is in sociology and social anthropology, and I studied also social work for masters, and I have also studied some social enterprise courses globally. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I worked for, before I founded Beautiful Minds, I worked for international NGOs working on water hygiene, sanitation in Ethiopia. And I have a chance to see the magnitude of the problem in Ethiopia and also globally. And that's where my knowledge base comes from. in terms of solving this problem. And that is also where my passion and my innovation in terms of making it business wise comes from, because I used to work for non-profits where we get the fundings from charitable, like charity making and philanthropies, and usually it is limited for, like, say, budget based for 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, and it was not sustainable to kind of solve universally the community's problem. So that's where I kind of jumpstart to kick off Beautiful Minds, where we kind of bring a business model, even though we can get the fundings initially to start up, but eventually our approach is to make it fully business, where the business generates revenue, where we also use that revenue to impact the work we do.
Thank you so much for that. I will start with you, Sophia. What would you say characterizes the entrepreneurs in your specific programs?
Yeah. Well, we have a strong belief that if we're going to really build sustainable and impactful businesses, we need to find the kind of startups and the ventures that are started by the people who not only experience the problem firsthand, but who also own the problem. We believe it's these people that have the solutions to the problem. So we always work with local innovators who have an understanding of the group of people they're trying to support and help, who can therefore understand the customers better, who can understand the customer needs better, but can also understand, the impact that they're actually creating. So it's very important that that entrepreneurs have this kind of local understanding. And then I would say another thing that characterizes all of our entrepreneurs is actually our own value base as an organization, and that is smart, brave, and passionate. So we want to see entrepreneurs who are questioning the status quo, who are questioning the systems that they're trying to change and impact, and doing this in smart ways. So they do really need to be brave, and they need to be passionate to be able to throw themselves into this, because it's really hard work and you might not see the long-term effects for many, many years. So you have to stick with it for a long period. And I think that what we find is that the business models can pivot, and the way you do things, that the revenue base may change, and these are all things we can work with and develop, but it's the team that's the utmost importance. So the founder and the team is really the person or the that we invest in, and we also want to see that there is a really impactful solution that can tackle the problem that they're trying to look at. So that's what characterizes the entrepreneurs, all of the entrepreneurs across our portfolio, whether they're in Ethiopia or Kazakhstan or Sweden.
Worldwide.
Yes.
Yeah. Ayatam, what would you say that are the biggest opportunities and also challenges when building a startup in Ethiopia?
Okay. So I would say Ethiopia is, in terms of opportunity, Ethiopia is a place where innovation is still at lower stage. So, like, every ecosystem needs innovation, every ecosystem needs like startups and problem solvers. So where you kind of start to work in one problem, it is like a social problem, pretty much, like almost everything. So that is like where the opportunity lies, and this is well understood by like our people, the government, and every sector, and also like internationally, we are at the poverty index, where every like venture is like considered as a problem and could be like a potential of change. It's an opportunity to change something else. And in terms of also like there is human resources, in terms of like if you want to start a startup, you can source human resources with like relatively cheap, like I would say, like cheaper amount of salary, or cheap labor is really an ideal value here, so that like the founder, even if we don't have too much investment, we can still kind of keep running in a little bit with little fundings like whatsoever. But in terms of challenge, like investment is one challenge because there was no any startup grant provider in Ethiopia, like until, to my knowledge, until the Reach for Change come into existence, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So that is the biggest problem. And like if you want to do a project and try to design a program and start up your smaller enterprise, then you have to do it by your own, like from technical point of view, from financial point of view, like literally everything. These days, there are some other companies who popped up to kind of support social enterprises and like startups. And also the government is feeling the need for small businesses because small businesses are like almost 80% of the country's business. So the government has like this policy of homegrown economy that it started really like almost last year. So that's pretty much the challenge is that like we don't have technical expertise while how to start our business, and also we don't have the financial needs and the requirements to start the business. So we almost rely on our own saving, and that's, for example, in my case, that's how we started. We don't have the finance in the first beginning, so we just saved around like $50 from four of us, like my other co-founders, and we rented an office and we started like searching for partners and other organizations who could be interested in what we envision. And like along the road, we found Reach for Change. So I think in terms of challenge, like I would say, like there is no supporting organization, and like the government didn't felt the need until recently. So yeah, and the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem was really very limited, and nobody believes in startup. Like you have to come. There is, for example, tax holiday for big investors. Like if you come from Europe or from Qatar, if you are investing, like they will give you land for free. They will give you like almost everything. They will give you like loan and everything. But for startups, nobody believe it. Nobody in the micro micro financial institutions or the bank or the government, nobody believes in it. Even that is a problem still so far. So yeah, that I would say the whole ecosystem is a barrier.
And Sophia, Reach for Change has been active in Africa for many years, I've heard. And which areas do you see as a business potential for Swedish entrepreneurs, for instance?
Yeah. Well, as Ayatam was saying, I mean, there is an immense social need in Africa in so many different sectors. So the social need to find new kind of service provisions, new models for education, new models for health delivery, new models for financial inclusion, all of these areas, are extremely critical to be built out, and that's where we really need to insert more kind of innovation in the system. So I think that the continent in general is really ripe for entrepreneurship and for social entrepreneurship specifically. Add to that it's a very young demographic. We will have the majority of large cities in Africa with so much youth and potential that, as Ayatam was saying, also there's a labor force that's waiting to be engaged and to be trained. And if you also put an extra layer on that in terms of the ability to leapfrog in technology, I'm thinking of mobile telephone penetration and these other kinds of developments, it really does show that there's opportunity in Africa to really be able to test your innovations, be able to look for new customer segments and demographics, and to quite inexpensively, I think, test models to see if service delivery works, and at the same time really fulfill a super need that's really prevalent in the continent. And a lot of people talk about the risks in Africa. And of course, Ayatam was mentioning that as well, with the lack of access to capital and investment capital and these kinds of things. That has to do because there is often discussion about a lot of risk in the areas. Of risk of doing business is quite high in many of the countries, for example. Although I have to say that the countries are very different also. So we shouldn't speak of Africa as one country or one continent, because it's not. Very different in the different markets. But having said that, it's a perfect kind of place for social entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is really prevalent. And the ability to again test and pivot business models is really prevalent there. So I think it's coupled with the intense need that there is in finding valuable jobs for these young people that are coming out, and in finding really critical and simple innovations, just like Ayatam's for decreasing diarrhea and child mortality and all these kinds of things. I mean, the return of investment, the social return of investment you get is extremely, extremely high.
So would you say that has been a somewhat increased interests in just the Africa countries in Africa?
Both yes and no. I mean, I think that there still is a lot of risk and a lot of lack of knowledge of how to enter the different markets, which makes people a bit more hesitant to do that. At the same time, I think it's very interesting. We often talk about entrepreneurs in Europe who really are more opportunity-based, and entrepreneurs in Africa who are quite need-based, because the need is very high. But I think now, due to COVID, what we're seeing also is that entrepreneurs in Europe, also facing a pandemic, are also becoming more needs-based and really needing to address acute needs in the society. So maybe we have a lot to learn, I think, from each other. And I think this is also interesting to look at what Africa and the African entrepreneurship scene can teach us here.
Yeah. Talking about COVID, Ayatam, do you have to rethink your business now and adapt during these circumstances with the COVID-19 outbreak?
Yeah, I mean, not in terms of my business, but in terms of the whole project. For example, we used to work with schools where we kind of interact face to face with students. But now there is like almost lockdown in every single institutions, like especially schools and the college and everything. So we don't really go there, and it's not like once it has been our aim of work and geographic target, but now not anymore. So we have to adapt to a different kind of, still promoting hand washing and the behavior of hygiene, which is very critical for COVID-19 prevention, which is hand washing, according to World Health Organization. And so now we have adapted our geographic focus to like communities, random communities. So like previously we used to go knock door by door to schools and make them ensure they have soap and water ready. But now we just do that in like hotspot areas in the Addis Ababa where I live. And also we support like orphanages and institutions where there's like people such as like the blind associations in Addis. So we have changed our model of impact. But in terms of business, I would say we are the business where soap is needed. So there wasn't really a challenge of selling. Rather, like there will still would be another challenge, because if demand increases, but we are not up to that standard because we are a startup, then like there is still a problem of fulfilling the market needs, and that's really a great challenge in terms of the market point of view, because like customers would like to get their products ready like in time, and if our capital is limited to some manufacturing some only, then that still will be kind of the pandemic effect in a way.
So what would you best advise be to other entrepreneurs trying to navigate in this new business landscape, would you say?
I mean, it depends on, like, for example, the business, like We have like I am also sitting in the social enterprise board in Ethiopia. So like we have an association of social enterprises. So we know what the social enterprises are facing right now. There is like a massive, massive closure of their businesses, and most of them startups. Then, I mean, their budget is not like it is very limited. Like they will stay like maybe 3 months or 4 months in business, and they will shut down their office, their operation, and maybe they start to work at their home for some time. But still, it will be challenging, like so. So it depends on the business, and if it is a business, some kind of like soap or sanitizer or anything, then I think it resonates to the needs of the community at this stage. But still, like there are some businesses, for example, where they kind of adapt to trainings. Like we have one of our friend, also she's involved in Rich Fortune program. So they do coding, but they do it offline in face-to-face school program. But now they are diverting it into online programs, and online programs are very, very hard in Ethiopia due to the connection infrastructure and everything. But still, it's somehow manageable. Like once everybody is like sure of the problem, like now, okay, we don't go to school or we don't meet physically, what do we do? Then like, okay, let's sign up online and stuff. So even us, we are trying to figure out a way where we can send message content through SMS, or try to make, like social media campaigns, so that we also, still get the hand washing promotion and behavioral change keep going in terms of our work. So there is still adoption mechanism that like thinking through what their business is, and thinking what's the right modality, and still because they have to get the financials they need. So like that's also another challenge. Will people buy your product online while they may still find it somewhere, for free? So like that's how we just value art so that people can still get it online because it's new, unique and stuff. Or can you partner with other organization who can at least cover your minimum amount of finance so that you can do the online programming, and so like it's more about partnership, thinking through the business model you have and thinking your customer segments in detail would be like a good way to kind of shift your business paradigm as this crisis.
We will soon have some. Thank you, and we will soon have some questions from the audience. But before that, I would just ask you, Sophia. Danske Bank has just recently released the third version of a report named "The State of Nordic Impact Startups." What do you see as the main differences between Nordic social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs from other parts of the world, would you say?
Well, I think we're very lucky in the Nordics in the sense that we have a lot of examples of entrepreneurs and unicorns that have actually been able to grow their business to quite a large extent and to scale and to become these unicorns. So we have a lot of great role models. I think that that's extremely important. That's something that we see more and more. That the startups that come to us, we have to work a lot on their mentality so that they really are ready to scale, and that's their ambition from the start. And that's easier to do if you see that there are role models around you all the time who are having that same journey. So I think in that sense, the ecosystem that Ayatam was talking about, that we have good processes and structures in place, good legislation that makes it easier, and good role models. In that sense, I think we're quite lucky in the Nordics. Having said that, I mean, there's still, I think, a lot of work to be done with just explaining and talking about the benefits of social entrepreneurship. And we see that, across all our markets, even the ones who are more developed. And so I think that that's a kind of job that we all have to do, and that's more global rather than regional. To talk about the benefits of social entrepreneurship. that you can actually find, business opportunity while solving some of the pressing issues that we have today. Because I think that's the whole point. We really need to infuse more innovation into the system, and we need to equip more brave people so that they are, willing to launch themselves out onto this, journey, which can be, I would say, very challenging. And then just a few words on also COVID and how that has impacted. I mean, I think Ayatam is a great example, and he mentioned some statistics that actually we see across the board from several entrepreneurs, and not so different from Ethiopia, to Ghana, to Sweden, to Denmark. And that is that a lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with have at least 74% of them work on kind of face-to-face service provision, and whether it be a kind of an educational solution or an integration solution or a health integration solution, that they really have to look at completely, changing their business model. How can they go digital? What are the barriers to that? How can they actually provide the same impact, but with digital tools? I think that's a huge challenge that a lot of them are facing. The second challenge is, of course, this with cash runways that I was talking about. We see that across our portfolio. When startups, lose their business and revenue generation overnight, for example, a lot of them don't have more cash runways than the coming 3 months. So they really have to look at their operations and see, where do you streamline, where do you cut. But at the same time, there's also an opportunity to invest and to look at things to capture opportunity. And I think that's the beauty of social entrepreneurship. I think what we see now with COVID is that, number one, social entrepreneurship is needed more than ever. And number two, this entrepreneurial mindset can really help these startups and organizations to pivot quite easily. And exactly as Ayatom was talking about, develop new partnerships, look for new customer segments, pivot their business models. So I think that the final bit is that the need has never been larger, and the entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs we work with are really, really well placed to capture also the opportunities that can come from this.
Thank you, Sophia. Now I will have, we have some questions actually from the audience, so I will start with one to you, Ayatam. Why did you choose to start your own company? What was the driving force for you?
So basically, like, because somehow it is not like one, I really was inspired by the statics, and not like the children also where I used to interact every day, and but immediately where I felt the need for social entrepreneurship, because I always worked in partnerships and and communication. I used to meet different people from different background, people from our donors, philanthropists, and everything. So I always share my vision of, what could a sustainable model would look like. And I have always read the social enterprise sector, how it could really impact while you don't really, beg for money from donors and stuff. So that's where I kind of said, okay. And social enterprise is really, really infant in Ethiopia. It's just it's still growing, but it's very, very small in terms of growth and scope. So I said, we should start this company as a social enterprise, but still keeping the mission that was deep to my heart. That is water, hygiene, sanitation, especially for kids in Ethiopia, and especially also when I grew up in a small town, in a relatively small town, but not larger than others. So I used to go to a government school, public school. So, and I don't remember if there was any private school as well. So there has always been no toilets, no hygiene facilities. I don't remember a day where we had water facility in the school, and nobody gives priority for water. And still to these days, while having water facility at school or toilets being clean is not like one criteria of having like the cleanness of the school. And my sister, like with all 2 years older than me, she always was challenged to stay at school because like especially when she was like in 15s, 16s, like she never used the toilets because like there's like menstruation and she has to when her period comes and it's like very shy and the doors are like not locked. So like there is the inclusion of those problems where I like have motivated me and pushed me and it was chasing me. I would say that. So that's why I started.
Thank you for that. One question to Sophia. Do you think it will be easier or more difficult to have a global mindset when building your startup in the future?
I think that there's two aspects really to that question. Because I think, unfortunately, on the one hand, what we see now with restriction of travel and more, the short-term effects of COVID, where we are staying in one place and maybe where we're becoming inadvertently more protectionistic. And I think that there will be, in the short term at least, a desire to really impact your own backyard and to work on kind of personal relationships and community relationships in the kind of smaller community. At the same time, we also see, the spread of kind of global movements and that we really are more connected than ever through technology and social media and things like that. So we always try to instill in our entrepreneurs the mindset of scale. And scale is to scale your impact where the need is the greatest. So that might be in your own country, but that might be taking your model to another country where the need is even greater. So I think in that sense, there's a lot of potential for this kind of global thinking when it comes to social entrepreneurship.
Yeah. We're running out of time, I see, but I would like to ask both of you one question that is, what is your best advice in finding the balance between perseverance, stick to your idea even in hard times, and adaptability? Oh, was a tricky word. People fast. So what are your best advice in terms of that to find the balance? Stick to your idea, even in hard times, or people fast?
I think maybe I'll start and then I'll let Ayatam goes. I think stick to your vision and to your purpose, and that's extremely important as a social entrepreneur. Stick to the need, why you started, why you're doing what you're doing. Ayatam so beautifully explained, why he is doing what he's doing. So if you stick to that, I think that that's the core. The business model, the customer segments, the partnerships, the revenue models, all those can pivot and should pivot. And I would encourage everybody to see, COVID as an opportunity actually to rethink, the way we do business and the way we interact with each other, and actually the way we can work collectively to solve the problems that we have today.
What would be your best advice, Ayatam?
So I mean, I received one training from like the rapid scale program of Rich Fortune. So I just wanna also credit that for Rich Fortune. So like the one of the trainers said, in social business or business world, like if you have to fail fast, So like, or if you have to change something in your business model or everything, you have to change it like quicker, like you have to really be dynamic like in terms of like, because there are utilities expenses you incur every single day. So for example, at this stage where there is COVID, and if your social problem you have been working on is not like it's compromised because like corona is the main case and people are staying home, and for example if it is like a democracy kind of campaign for election, there is social enterprise doing that, and if everything is closed right now and you don't do anything about it, then like you have to always be dynamic to dare to change things like in a way you should desire, that like that's what I say. And for example, in our case, I know for sure hand washing with soap is a very simple practice, and everybody should really adapt it. Even some people, my friends, joke at me like, "Oh, my friend, this is 21st century. People are like flying to space, and you are teaching hand washing for kids or like for adults." Yeah, somehow that's like it sounds very simple, but like when health is always very critical, like that's what we say, like, and simple practice like hand washing are always critical. But if there is a change, then still we stick to our true impact and to the problem, but we change the business model and targets. But if we have to change the whole notion of hand washing and do something else, then I wouldn't do it. Wouldn't really scare me. It's very scary, but I mean, that is a real fact, and we should always accept what's happening in the ground and try to, change with it.
It's clear that it will be very interesting to follow the social entrepreneurs going forward.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sophia and Ayatam, for joining us today, and I wish you good luck with your businesses. And I will also take the opportunity to thank you all that have listened to our webinar today, and have a good day.
Thank you so much.